So as I've mentioned in the course, it's actually fairly difficult to properly anchor a deck to brick veneer. Brick veneer is brick that's one layer thick, about 3.5 inches thick, and then there's an air space, and then there's some kind of wooden frame inside. This is the way modern bricks homes are built. They're not built as structural brick walls with multiple bricks. It's just the one brick and then a wood frame. And if you have a deck in mind that ideally needs to plug in at a level that is encountering that brick veneer, then you've got a bit of a problem. Because as I explained, it looks like solid masonry, and it is, but it's just not all that strong. So you can't sink the expanding metal anchors that I've shown into brick veneer. It's just not strong enough. You might drill right through and put an anchor into the wood frame behind it, if you can. But that's not great either, because that's going to put some side pressure on the veneer when you tighten that up. So the ideal solution is this piece of hardware here. This is especially made for securing the edges of deck floor frames to brick veneer. The edge of the floor frame, called a ledger or a header sometimes, it's 1.5 inch thick wood, and it fastens here when you're putting it all together. And this leg of the bracket fits through a hole, a fairly large hole that you've drilled through the brick veneer. Now, there's also these long screws that go up at an angle up here, and they also need to go through holes in the brick veneer at an angle, but then they go all the way up and then into the wood frame material of your house. So these angled lag screws are pulling this assembly into your house and holding the ledger board secure. But, and this is where the bracket comes in order to relieve the pressure of the brick veneer being pushed against the house, this leg extends through the brick. The brick is about 3.5 inches thick, and then there's an air space. It extends through all that, and this little foot is designed to press up against the frame of the house. So you've got pressure this way from these angled screws holding the floor frame of the deck to the house, but then this leg is pressing up against the wood frame behind the brick veneer, so you can't push too much, because like I said, the brick veneer is not all that strong in sideways pressure. And so this can be adjusted. This is a kind of a threaded arrangement, crudely threaded arrangement that needs to be adjusted so that it's just barely pushing up against the wood frame. There's also some smaller screw holes here. It's through here that you'd fasten this bracket to the wood of your deck floor frame. Now, if you take a look at this illustration here, you can see kind of cross-section of how it all works. So that's your brick veneer wall, and this is the edge of the floor frame, the ledger, as I said, it's sometimes called. And then here you can see that threaded leg that goes right through, and then the angled lag screws that go up through a pre-drilled hole into the floor frame of your house. So it's these that provide inward pull and support for the floor frame, but it's this leg that prevents too much side pressure from straining the brick and pulling it in and maybe cracking the brick. So with this arrangement, you can quite easily secure a deck floor frame to brick veneer, and it's really the simplest and most effective way to do it. It's got all the approvals. It's a bit complicated, so you may want to work around and use another approach for fastening your deck, as I explained in the course. But if you have your heart set on connecting it right to the brick veneer, then this is the thing you need to use. It's by the SIMPSON Strong Tie people. I have no reason to mention them except that they just do a great job. This particular connector, it's the only one they sell. It's the only one I've ever seen, actually. BVLZ, that's what it's called.